Okay, sorry folks for the delay. I was telling Jim that of all days that I chose to drive to the office, it had to be today, so it was a huge mistake. Anyway, well, here we are. We're broadcasting live again from Nearsoft's Mexico City office. And well, today we're going to have, we're kind of trying Friday out because we usually do this on Wednesday, as you know. So, today we will have a very special guest. His name is Jim Asiano. He's a cloud integration and project management and negotiation coach. And he's in San Francisco, California. Jim, welcome to today's broadcast.
Yes, thank you, Carlos. Es un placer presentar a todo el DojoLIVE. Thank you.
Perfect, perfect. We appreciate you being here. Muchas gracias. And the fact that you have a very good command over the Spanish language is highly appreciated.
Well, please excuse my Castellano Argentino because that's, you know, the only thing, you know.
All right. Excellent. Good. Now, all right. Then let me just make sure that we have pretty much everything here. Okay. All right, Jim, I'm going to, I understand that today you chose a very interesting topic. And I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit about your chosen topic for the day. This, if I recall correctly, hold on, I'm pulling up all my info here. It's, okay, here it is. Sorry about that. Okay, I got that. And the topic of today is going to be cloud and ESB integration. Sorry, IaaS and the API economy.
Correct.
Right? So, as you probably know, as I told you before, I'm not an engineer. So but there's a whole bunch of them here. So I'm going to let you do the introduction, and the mic is all yours, Jim. Welcome to today's broadcast.
Thank you, thank you. So for you engineers out there, go easy on me because if there's any technical questions that are beyond my scope, I'm happy to get you answers later if I don't know them. But Carlos, te agradezco, and let's get started here. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. And
okay.
I'm going to go to my first slide, which is, you know, this is a little bit about me. Let me know if that slide comes up, Carlos.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see the slide perfectly.
Okay, so I'm a SaaS technology enthusiast, which means that I think that subscription-based software is a business model that the venture capital community has embraced, and also the programmer, developer, architect community has embraced. And so what's happening culturally is this is one of the first few movements where the advocates and the enthusiasm about this technology or integration as a service is coming from the developer community. So it's not something that some business marketing salesperson cooked up, and it's not something that venture capital has pushed as, you know, the technology or the next big thing of the moment. So for me, it's a very exciting thing because, you know, people that didn't get a say in the past are really driving this. I'm also a trainer and coach. I work with Latin American companies that want to put a foothold into the US market, especially San Francisco. And I play nice in the other direction where I place Latin American Java architects and developers, principally from Argentina, but I do have some people in Mexico and Colombia as well. I'm a San Francisco-based swimmer, and I'm also the father of a girl and a boy. So now that the formalities are over, let's get into today's topic.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate it.
No, we're trying to move as fast as we can. So let's see. I'll get rid of this. if I can. Okay, so today, you know, we're going to try and Carlos, give me the go-ahead if you see this first slide.
Yes, the one with the little pencil in illustrations. Yes, yes, we can see that. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the proliferation of connectivity, which is, you know, the mobile, B2B, SaaS, of course, workstations, and this big gap that existed between kind of the enterprise software stack below. And if you look at the bottom of the screen, you'll see that there's a database and an ERP and other SaaS applications. This is red Salesforce. And then, you know, there's flat files and Oracle. But what's important to note here is this is the system or the enterprise layer. And what happens is, even these are all legacy applications. And so what's funny is even Salesforce is now considered a legacy application. What happens is we're trying to get this data freed up so that we can push it all the way out to these various devices. So let me go ahead and push that one more place. So what's happening is we started out with an API layer, which is you know, REST services and web services and SOAP. And what that's trying to do is free up these, you know, protected enterprise software platforms and push them up into a second level, which is kind of a process, and the word of the moment right now is orchestration. So what we use for this second layer of APIs is kind of, we call it orchestration, where you're putting together more than one of these enterprise apps in the bottom rung into something that will map back to a business process you tend to use a lot and actually make it available to people internally in your organization. Does everybody follow me so far?
Well, there's a question for the audience. Oh, by the way, I'd like to take advantage of this little pause to remind everyone that you can interact with us and with Jim by means of the talk to us option that's right on the lower left-hand side of your YouTube or our channel screen. So just click in there, and it'll take you it'll tell you what to do. So, having said this, if there are no questions, Jim.
We'll get more questions in the next run, but we'll alert you ahead. So
yeah, sure.
So again, having internal users that aren't necessarily native to this lower rung of enterprise applications is a natural thing. And the good news is that there's not as much security concern. Now we'll go to the next slide. And now things begin to get a little more complicated. Now what we're talking about now is what I like to call the consumer API, which basically is the last mile before you get out to these B2B portals and SaaS applications, and of course, workstations and mobile. So as you can see on this right side, the numbers are starting to proliferate because you only have so many system APIs to, you know, the ends in the enterprise applications you maintain. And then you have so many internal orchestration APIs, but it's really starting to kick up on this UX level, it's called, which I like to call the consumer API. Now things start to get a little messy because what's starting to happen is there are legacy applications on this bottom rung of enterprise APIs that TIBCO, IBM, and Oracle have been the earliest players in this space. I mean, it's really been around for over 15 years. The second layer is more of a newer type of technology that's come in, and it's certainly something that a lot of different large enterprises have started to embrace. And then when you get up to the top, where these 350 consumer APIs could possibly proliferate, you're now looking at a possible API management problem where there's just too many things to maintain, and you're getting a lot of calls from your external consumer users for more extensibility and deeper access and things that really don't really fall into the IT management world, but developers are very keen on filling this up. So there might be a little bit of a hot potato of management. Now we go to the, I think this is the last slide, because it gets really messy. So now in this column on the far right, we're now looking at a new breed of integration as a service.
Jim?
Yes.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second? It's just that I'm getting some feedback regarding the slides themselves. So apparently, you're sharing your screen, but the viewers are not actually able to see the progress as or the slides moving forward.
Oh,
so
okay, I understand. Okay. So has everybody reviewed at least the slides up to this point? I mean, are you looking at the same slide I am now?
Yeah, well, right now I'm looking at apparently slide number 1.
Oh, geez. Okay.
So probably that's a little bit off.
Let me do this in presentation mode. How does this look? You're on slide 1.
Yes.
Now I'm going to go to slide 2.
Did you just do that?
Yeah, I just moved to slide 2.
For some reason, in that case, something is, no, we're still, hey, we have a question on the Q&A prompt, and they're confirming that we're still at number 1. So for some reason, your slides are not moving.
Okay, how about this one? Uh-oh. Okay, let me see if I can do this in a different way. Are you able to see my screen now?
Yeah, I mean, I can see your screen, definitely.
Okay. Can you see slide number 2?
Now we can see slide number 2. Apparently you did something and now we're able to see it.
So now, okay, so let's go we'll just review really quick. So
okay,
talking about
thank
the
you.
enterprise layer, where 15 years we've had IT and developers trying to push enterprise data into an extensible stack between each of the enterprise-led technologies. Number 2 is this orchestration API, which works to take a mix of the different data sets from each of these lower rung enterprise applications and make them available to the users inside the enterprise. And now we have what we're going to be talking about is the consumer API, which is actually this data from the lowest rung going out to various devices and actually making it available to consumers, which could be a B2B portal, a SaaS application, workstations, and mobile. So this slide is probably the most important. Is it's become very fragmented because this MCV is starting to really proliferate. There's, you could get 350 different consumer APIs, and so management becomes very difficult as these 3 layers start to have their own individual providers. TIBCO and IBM and Oracle have done this for 15 years. And then the process and orchestration APIs have been around for a good amount of time as well. Security concerns are not as much. Now the third rung, there's new applications like Apigee and Mashery. And so that's kind of where we are with these 3 tiers of different solution providers. So what's happening in the API economy is it's getting jump-started by these integration as a service providers. Are you able to see that last screen, Carlos?
Yes.
Okay. And so there are a couple early players in this that are making a lot of news. One is MuleSoft. There's another one called SnapLogic. There's Jitterbit. And then all of the larger big technology companies are coming in here with their own versions of this. But what it basically is you have one product, and it's going to allow you to manage these APIs, and it's going to allow you to basically deploy your APIs. And you know, MuleSoft is an open source community license, and then you can move it up to an enterprise license. So again, this has been embraced by the developer and architect community as a better way to approach integration as opposed to point-to-point integration, which is kind of from before the internet was more robust to handle it. So let's go to the next slide, and we can see how this, they call it the landscape, has really become some pretty serious applications are now software as a service, and people are asking for more and more access to these that are outside the enterprise. So that gives you a nice colorful representation of how these companies are really starting to proliferate.
Okay.
Can we take a pause here for a question?
Sure.
Comment? A comment's good too.
Well, yes, actually, well, first of all, I'd like to, again, encourage the audience to ask away and use the prompt. And now is the time, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay.
Okay, well, let's get, until we get something, let's move into the, where we are in the cycle.
Okay.
So basically what's happened is websites have kind of been the place where consumer users go. And we understand today that it's a subset of people on the web. And, you know, today everybody's goal is to get 1/100% of the audience to your website. Like for Azteca TV, that is a really good day. For 60 Minutes or CBS broadcasting in the States, that's a really good day. Now what's happening is this kind of untapped potential is coming to consumers through a web API. And it's coming out of this, this little circle at the bottom, and then it's proliferating or extending itself into third-party apps, social networks, mobile apps, widgets, gadgets. So you're giving them the same functionality, but you're not limited to a browser anymore. And now you're inviting these third parties to build apps around the data you provide. Most notable are governments that are actually allowing companies to come in and grab the data that the government keeps, which is going to be a really interesting trend because it just provides an incredible amount of transparency where democracies have never had that kind of opportunity. And then, of course, design for mobile. Most applications, especially SaaS applications, are pretty much committed to designing for mobile first, because tablets and cell phones are just able to handle a lot more of this this kind of data, and the bandwidth is really working in the same direction. Next slide is, let's start to talk about the Internet of Things. And as you know, lots of people can use Amazon. Lots of people are using the Nike, it's a fuel, it's a band that tracks all your movements, exercise, sleep. And then Square, one of the Twitter founders, started a payments company that, you know, if you're in the Mercado, in any kind of Latin American country or the US, your artist will have one of these on their cell phone in order to take a credit card or debit card payment. So who's out there leading the charge? Well, these big brands are investing in this kind of innovation. And more of what you see is, you know, Nike is not afraid to use the cloud to deliver technology to their devices. which is a real kind of the insecurity or the nervousness of delivering content is somewhat melting away. Of course, your automobile is all connected, especially with Tesla. It's actually putting hardware that's not activated in their cars, and then 6 months later, they'll send out software which will activate those pieces of hardware unbeknownst to the consumer at the time of purchase. So customer response, you can imagine, it's been very favorable. And we all know that pretty much everybody has their boarding passes for airline travel on their mobile. A lot of people are starting to buy exclusively on mobile. And there's obviously mobile banking is probably the most heavily impacted technology that consumers are demanding. So obviously we have the idea of new business channels, and we're all going to have to try and cook something up between marketing as well as the developers and architects. So if you look at somebody like Box, they just know they have to publish a public API. And a public API is really the reluctance of a lot of big enterprises to provide, because they don't want to cannibalize themselves. They don't want to expose themselves to more eventual competition. But then when you're a company like Box, I mean, they're in a heck of a competing market by selling online storage. So you can imagine how important this is to a company like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, here's the difficult thing. Right now, there's about 13,000 apps, or at least when this was created. But look at all the possible apps that we can have in the next, I don't know, 10 years. And we're talking consumer, B2B, mobile, government. I mean, it's going to just be, as far as managing these things and writing the contracts, it's going to be a very big business. And of course, I think that number would include the Internet of Things, which is everything from Nest to your wearable devices, and then into the future. So what are the new kinds of APIs? Well, there's a self-selected. Enterprise will try and orchestrate all the way up to the consumer layer. Product integration, people are going to want to access data from, let's say in the Internet of Things, my refrigerator, or when my electric guitar needs new strings, I'll get a notification on my mobile that, hey, things aren't sounding so well. Here's a link to order new strings. And then really experiences. A lot of new consumers are going to come to this market because the one thing that they understand, let's say cooking, all of a sudden there's a very attractive application that you can use in the kitchen, and people who would never use the internet before for cooking will start getting menus, recipes, and more interactive, where a list of ingredients would be available for you to purchase and have delivered at your home, for example. So right now, everything's pretty fragmented. And instead of point-to-point integration, it's got to be done by integration as a service. It's just too much to manage from the inside, behind the firewall, as it were, with these legacy applications. And everybody knows a lot of these application clouds. But if you really look on the left side, consumers, partners, and suppliers, I think they're going to be the most aggressive at getting this information up to where they can confront their consumers in the places they've never been able to do it before. And we just keep seeing the different APIs that are going to proliferate, and then we'll all have their own little names, but it's the internal API that you can manage at the same time with your open APIs. So all of you guys out there, if you want to be unemployable in your Latin American country, come to where the innovation is, and we'll get you a job up here in San Francisco, because These business and innovation channels are really up to the numbers of technology enthusiasts are going to come in and say, we can mix, you know, Mexican and Canadian businesses into a NAFTA-based commerce portal and really give robust functionality to it. There's so many different ways that you can orchestrate these things from the consumer layer or the partner layer that there's really no limit to who can come in and do this stuff, especially from the open source community as well. And now what we need is we have to power this. And MuleSoft will use their Studio application, but you can also get their Community Edition and do quite a bit of this on your own. And so again, you know, make note of the different applications that are available, and you know, you can go ahead and toy with this today. So I'll go ahead and conclude here that, you know, there's some thoughts is, you know, we think of this as a second digital revolution. You know, when you're going from 0.001% or 301% to billions of people, 5 billion people have mobile devices today. I mean, that's a staggering number. And again, everybody has an API that they would probably respond to if the right combination of delivery functionality would be there. Also, you know, there are current models today that are not going to be viable tomorrow. There just won't have enough orchestration, or it won't follow enough of a business process. SnapLogic uses snaps, which are these, you know, predetermined connectors. Mule calls them connectors. So if you wanted to port data from SAP through a payload into Salesforce to read, you don't even have to write it. You just go and download it from the Mule community site, or you have to pay for the SAP, but there are free connectors as well. All this innovation is going to come from strategy. And the companies that embrace this strategic activity are really the ones that are going to win. And then adaptation, that's not my word, adaptation. Adaptation is going to be important because everybody has to differentiate their services. Everybody has to partner on so many different levels. Well, we're not going to get into a business discussion because I like to stay on the technology side. But you'll see it happening. And really, again, developers, architects, they're going to be the ones that are driving this. You'll have lots of crazy suggestions from the outside, but it's the technology community and the developer that's going to be able to put these ideas into action. So I'll stop there, Carlos. And
sure.
Of course, you know, if we get a further discussion, that would be really wonderful.
Absolutely. Actually, what I'd like to do is move on to our questions, because we do have some. And the first question that we have is from, well, from someone at Nearsoft. And unfortunately, cannot see the name, but just says Nearsoft. So, but anyway, the question is this like TIC, like TIC.io, for example?
I'm not familiar with that particular solution. Is there a way that I could? Well, let me take a look and take a quick look.
Sure. TYK.
Oh, TYK.
TYK.io.
What's it doing? Okay, so yeah, what this looks like to me. Let me see. It's not coming up here for some reason. But I think what's happening is a lot of these companies are able to piece these things together. And a good idea is something like Tableau, which is really grabbing enterprise data and presenting it in a different way through big data. And I'm looking at this site right now, and definitely getting these things, getting a way to manage your APIs from the cloud just makes a lot of sense. And I don't know if I answered the question, but I can take a look at that and get a little more information over to everybody in the comment section of the YouTube channel.
Oh, absolutely. That'll be great. Meanwhile, what do you say we jump into the next question? Well, the next question is by one of my co-workers here at Nearsoft Mexico City, Cuauhtemoc Haman.
Okay.
His question is, who owns the data that is collected?
Very good point. Very good ask. Well, I mean, traditionally on the second level orchestration, the enterprise is able to continue owning that data. It's not going outside the organization. What happens is, or today, a lot of this data is being dumbed down to the point that it's safe for the enterprise to expose certain things. A company like Demandware, which is an e-commerce platform that works, in the same vein as Hybris and Magento, is promising the world an open API, but they don't want to disintermediate their business model of sharing revenue on all the items that sell through the platform. And so I think for Demandware, it's do or die. They may not know if an open API is going to support their business model, but I think that's just a temporary thing. I think they're going to find it through their partners and through ultimately the buyers on their platform. But who owns it? That's just a very good question. Apparently the governments are pretty open to giving you access, and I would think that that is ownership, right? A lot of government data is being used in money-making applications today. I also think one of the main parts of SaaS, and this might be a little obtuse, but what you can say is when you put a license out and people just click on the agreement, on the EULA agreement, you can't redline a screen when you're looking at that. Meaning you can't make corrections on the contract if you're agreeing to it through a browser. So I think that's a big part of strategy, and that's if you put something into the public domain, you better have all that figured out. And API management, as I can see like in TIC, is going to be very important because robust reporting, performance, these are all going to be part of this API management. I would call it probably an explosion.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for your response, Jim. I'd like to jump into the next question, which would be the following: Can people trust on their data to be secure in the cloud? What can you say about this?
Well, I mean, obviously, there's always going to be some kind of a breach potential. And I think what it really is about agility. There was I think it was like 120 character password in one of Siemens' global applications that basically powered the entire grid of the United States. And somebody hacked into it. Now, they got to it within minutes, but what Siemens and other big companies are going to find is the way your security procedures are not just deploy and forget. Security procedures are constantly going to be maintained as fast as a team of Chinese hackers is going to try and find a way into your system. So is anything 100% safe? Well, I mean, if you've been in any big city, you know that your personal safety and I would just look at the hardware and the agility of the security solutions that Open API is going to prompt companies to look at in a different way.
Okay, there you have it. Thank you again. And the next question, actually, I think it could tie into the former. To the last question that was responded. And actually, it's by Cuauhtemoc as well. What can you say about security?
Well, I mean, I can't say a lot about it. What I can say is the decision makers at the top, and we're talking about CTOs, CFOs, finance officers, chief executive officers. By the time they get something that's bubbled up from development and through a business model, they would just scoff at security, right? It would just be, well, whatever. There's people that will just take care of it. Let's go for it. And what I can say about security is I don't think it's going to hold up putting these things into production as it has up till now. And I can't give you any specifics. But what I can say is there's got to be a change in process between the way business looks at it and the way the development community discovers these ideas and actually puts them into play. Are they going to be concerned about that component? Are they going to put security in before they build it? They can do it after. What kind of agile sequence would work that will accommodate a pretty reasonable fireproofing before there's a business argument that can be made and before the executives can give the go ahead? But just the fact that the CXOs are even looking at this, I think, is a very important thing for security.
Okay, Cuauhtemoc, I hope that answered your question. And as I was listening to your talk today, and I think I clearly stated when we first connected that I don't have an engineering background or a technical background. However, I have to do my homework because this is the industry in which I am. And so having said this, in that context and regarding the API economy, how does, I would say that, how are international standards affect, so for example, POSIX? How do these standards affect somehow the API economy?
Right. So good answer, good question, because it brings up another thing that these products like Mule and SnapLogic and Jitterbit are trying to achieve. They're trying to get this to a point where all these connectors are already built and non-technical people can get into these and start building these and start using these connectors drag and drop from whoever is granting that public API to. So what you do have is kind of a pre-packaged connector store or repository, but then you also have templates. And a template is really takes multiple connectors and gives a non-technical person a shot at putting together an orchestrated business process, which could really change things. And it could take more out of the developer's hands. And again, that would be like, the holy grail in San Francisco is, can we make a .NET programmer a Java programmer, right? If you can unlock that, then the shortage of people around here would be somewhat solved, not totally solved, but it's a very compelling idea that will now extend into non-technical people having access to these control dashboards and literally dragging and dropping an orchestrated process that uses multiple data stores, multiple functionalities, and putting that out into the market seamlessly. So, there's hope for people like you and I, Carlos.
Well, I would say, when you say you and I feel kind of honored because, I mean, your expertise is, like, way over there, way up there, and I'm just way down here.
We won't bring down a company if we started noodling with this stuff, and I think that's the general idea, right? It should be extensible, and it could be extensible. I mean, you're already doing it in your browser, basically. So this would kind of be, when you drag and drop a file into Box, or any other thing. I mean, or you're taking a picture of your check to make a deposit. I mean, you're doing something that we probably didn't imagine doing some years ago.
Most likely,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, finally, one more on my end. Well, we talked about an API economy. Is there such a thing as, or could there be such a thing as an ABI economy?
And what are you talking about?
Binary.
That interface?
Yeah, binary interface.
Right. I don't know too much about that, to be honest. I do know that if you're an organization, you want to expose data, you're always going to want to expose some subset of that data. So I don't know if that particular idea would give you the same ability as an API. But I mean, I would be wrong in that because I'm not very familiar. It sounds like that's something that, hypothetically could work for enterprise to enterprise.
Okay, that's fine. I appreciate it anyway. And you also mentioned, I also remembered that during our initial communications, you mentioned the Internet of Things, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
what can you? That's kind of a big thing right now, and we're Nearsoft as a company is leaning towards that direction. So what can you tell us about that?
Well, again, it's you just you look at the very basic parts of this, right? I mean, mobile can receive data or functionality that's being pushed from a device that basically can weigh the shelf of your refrigerator and send the information, and it may be able to tell you it's time to buy more mayonnaise or your Arm & Hammer baking soda odor control box needs to be replaced. I mean, basically, I think the challenge in that is who is going to say, yes, I want this, or I see enough benefit in the Internet of Things, I want my toaster to talk to me. Or when Tesla sold you a car last year, they said, one of our options is a $2,000 software fee. And a lot of people are like, well, what is that? And Tesla didn't enumerate the many devices that they were putting into their cars to allow them to self-drive, self-park, steer, anything. And so it was only after you downloaded that software did you discover that there were sensors and cameras and all kinds of things that were put into the car. So it's really, as a consumer, am I going to feel that it's invasive, or am I going to feel it's going to benefit me, like Nest, which is basically controlling the temperature of your home? But it's something much more because it's personalized to what your life is. And I think a lot of people, even people that don't embrace technology or don't have the latest phone, I think they're going to become very enthusiastic about this because there's just so many different things that we all get used to using, like a mobile device, and maybe something that's sending something to the mobile device that is interesting. I mean, my mother has in her home little devices that are connected to her refrigerator, her medicine cabinet, her front door. And so myself, my brothers and sisters know when my mom has eaten, we know when she's taken her medication, and we know when she's been in and out of the house. And we get all of that on a mobile, and if there's something untoward, one of us is on it. So again, these are just things my mother has no problem when we came in and started sticking all these things around her house. But yes, I mean, that is one device that could ostensibly save a life and keep a family intact. I mean, let's be honest, that's a benefit to people.
And I would assume that that's definitely going to have a great effect on the economy as a whole.
Yeah.
As a whole, worldwide.
Yeah, worldwide. And again, so when you're looking at international standards, what is the harm in that? Or, what kind of, what is the due diligence of moving into a new region with something like that? I don't know. But I think it would be very interesting. If consumers want it, it's fun.
Excellent, great. All right, finally, one more question from the audience, and then we'll we'll be approaching wrapping up time.
This is sure.
Okay, sure. Okay. The question is, in the long run, sorry, in the long run, will cloud APIs tend to go the way of social networks? In the sense that, will there be one to rule them all, or will some standards allow different APIs to communicate?
That's a really good question.
That was by Cuauhtemoc. Thank you, by the way.
Yes, thank you. Wait, he's on fire with inquiries. I like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well,
he always is.
Yeah, that's a very interesting idea, because it could be putting your Twitter feed into your Facebook feed. Well, are they going to want that? Or a 12-year-old girl could become an e-commerce maven and drive millions of dollars from some site she put up or Facebook homepage that literally generates millions of dollars a month. I mean, and she could probably go in and a big clothing manufacturer could start making these, where they see the potential, they can come in and get this 12-year-old girl to advise them, like, what would be a great API that provide you more orchestration to increase your e-commerce reach. So, no different than a B2B or a partner can come in and ask for APIs to increase their business. I definitely see social media. There's going to be a much more robust business model as opposed to just click-throughs on YouTube. So, I mean, God, the potential of that, I don't even know, right? It would be very interesting because, social networks are groupings of consumers that are just waiting to explode. And if an API can make that more seamless, more transparent, I've always posited that if somebody comes and visits me, that's one commercial event. Or if somebody buys something through me, I should get money from the company, and it could be down to the lowest level of person on the social network. But even if I had my own web page, companies should pay me when I do a sale. I mean, there are affiliates and there are things like that, but to do it on the minutia of an individual transaction for an individual would be a very interesting thing to put into the market and see where that goes.
Okay.
But by the way, social media right now is a big part of what MuleSoft talks about, because they think that enterprises are finding that information very important. And they're very eager to put that into a master data management piece and then put that into a big data repository in order to better analyze that. And of course, the ultimate place is Tableau, where you can read and see what all this data is doing. So social networks already do have a very prominent place right now in this whole IaaS world.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Cuauhtemoc. Once again, thank you for your questions, which are, as Jim says, they're on fire, definitely. Okay, listen, we're about to wrap up today's DojoLIVE broadcast. So I don't know if you have, Jim, any final words, any recommendations for our team here?
I really appreciate the interest of your constituency. I think people that are getting exposed to this and learning about this is going to be really important. To me, Latin America is the closest consumer culture to the United States, and therefore I'm really excited that the interest groups like yours are looking at this. And I can't tell you how much fun I had here today. I'm so appreciative that we could pull this off. I just want to thank everybody that's attended, and of course to you, Carlos.
No, absolutely. Actually, and again, I apologize for the few minutes late. I promise next time I won't drive. I'll just take the subway. It's quicker, faster, cheaper, more comfortable. Okay. Well, Jim, thank you so much for your time, your willingness, and your having shared your expertise with our folks here and with the audience. And you and I are going to be in touch, and we'll be sending you by FedEx a couple of tokens of appreciation that are not digital, by the way. There's something you can have fun with, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. And again, thank you so much on behalf of myself and of Nearsoft as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Tell you how much fun this was.
All righty.
All right.
We'll be in touch. Thank you.
Okay. Take care.
Bye-bye.